Chapter 1 A Visitor at the Gate. I remember that day as if it were yesterday. It rained that morning for the first time in months. The rain freshened the air and brought relief from the long summer's heat and dryness. The change in the air had quickened my step, and as I moved about the palace in Susa, I was certain that was true for most everyone else as well. I fully expected it to be a quiet day in the palace. There were no festivities or royal functions planned. The king had just returned from a week-long hunt and intended to rest for several days. The fact that he had just returned meant that I also had just returned. You see, as the king's cupbearer, I was always by his side. I served him in that capacity for nigh on 18 years. I would have willingly sacrificed my life for my king. There was no food or drink that passed through his lips that I did not first inspect and make sure was safe for him to consume. I selected his wines and foods based upon what I knew to be his preferences, and I kept careful watch over his meal preparation and occasionally sampled his food or beverages to ensure they were acceptable. Over the years, we assembled a trusted cadre of cooks, bakers, kitchen workers, gamekeepers, and farmers. They were well aware of the penalty should they ever endanger the king's health or life. Because the king entrusted me with his life, a unique bond of trust developed between us over the years. It didn't start out that way, but as time passed, the king felt free to say things to me that he would never have uttered in front of his most trusted advisers. He knew that I knew my place. He never asked me for advice. Rather, I was simply a trusted confidant with whom he could express his most personal thoughts without fear of them being repeated. Eventually, the king told me his most confidential plans for the kingdom and his people, long before he shared them with anyone in his court. My life revolved around my service to him. I was always nearby and available at a moment's notice. I never ventured from the palace unless I was in the company of the king, and I had no friendships or close relationships apart from my allegiance to him. That's why I was so surprised when I received word I had a visitor waiting at the palace gates. I had lived in the palace for 34 years and never once had anyone come to see me. I could not imagine who it might be, and the servant who delivered the message was unable to shed any light on who it might be. Since the visitor was unannounced, the royal guards had prevented him from entering the gates. As I approached the guards, they came to attention. Even though I held no position of rank over them, the guards, as well as all the servants, treated me with a respect beyond my station because of my unique relationship with the king. In fact, I frequently noticed they treated me with more respect than they showed some of the king's less gentlemanly royal counselors. The guard pointed out a man standing outside the gate with his back to me. I could see he was about my same build. His cloak was well worn and bore the signs of one who had just traveled a long distance. As I passed through the gate, he turned toward me. His hair and beard had obviously once been like coal, but now they were being overtaken by gray. He looked like a man who regularly engaged in physical labor. I did not recognize him, which made me even more curious as to why he had come to see me. But as our eyes met, I began to sense something familiar about him. His eyes were the same as mine, not only in color but also in expression. The man approached me and threw his arms around me in an embrace. "Brother," he exclaimed, "it has been a long time. I doubt I would have known you if I wasn't waiting for you here at the gate. You are quite the distinguished gentleman, and I fear you do not recognize me." "You are correct, friend," I said, as I pulled away from his embrace. "Who are you, and why have you asked to see me?"